may be seated. Go ahead and grab a Bible and open up to the book of 1 Timothy. We'll be studying some verses from 1 Timothy this morning with all of you. It's good to be with you. I'm excited to be with you this morning, get into God's Word. I hope you come this morning with a sense of enthusiasm and excitement for what's going on here at our church and for what's happening. We're at a pretty important moment in life of our church. We're in the middle of this initiative that we are calling Rev It Up, Accelerating Forward. This initiative really is one of the biggest things we've ever done as a church. I hope you get a sense for the enthusiasm, for the excitement, for the dedication that the staff has, that the elders have for what we believe God is calling us to do together. So I just want to remind you of a couple things. Our goal is to raise $2.5 million over the next 2 years for everything we believe God is calling us to do for our ministries and also for our building expansion. Now this is a gigantic step. I mean, $2.5 million, that's a lot of money, right? I mean, that's a pretty big chunk. We say, God, we're going to trust you, you're going to provide for this. But this opportunity is so rare, it is so compelling, that we'd be unwise to grab hold of it right now. This church is positioned to make a colossal impact for the next 50, 100, 150, 250 years, however long the Lord has not returned and He's given us an opportunity here. We have an opportunity in front of us to grab hold of right now. We have a unique approach to our campaign. It's called a one fund approach. And what we mean by that is all of the money that's given over the next 2 years is going to go into one fund, which will fund our ministries and also our building expansion. So everything we believe God is calling us to do, locally, globally, and building expansion is going into one fund. It's a bit of a different approach. But we are very clear about the ministry that God has called us to do right here. We need to invest in our ministries. We have a children's ministries downstairs. We've got youth ministry going on. We've got college ministry happening. We've got adult ministry going on. We've got so much going on, and we need to invest in that, reinforce those things, and move forward in some of those areas, particularly related to what's going on locally for us, what's going on globally for us. If anything, we want to say we want to do more ministry. We want to kind of feed that and accelerate forward in that area. We also know we need to invest in a new facility, because in many ways, our facility is a hindrance to us moving forward in our ministry. So we want to build a facility that's going to facilitate ministry. We produced a Rev It Up booklet that hopefully some of you have picked up. If you've not, you can pick it up today in the lobby out here at the table. It describes more than I can right now. This is also a great website you can go on. It contains basically the same information, but also has some more details there. It's revitup-obf.org. Go check it out. There's lots of stuff for you to check on and just see, okay, what is this about? For you to pray and think through, what does this mean for me? My hope is that 100% of us, that means children, college students, adults of all kinds, will participate in this initiative. Say, yes, I'm in. I can make some sort of commitment to this initiative. Coming up on October 8th, so just in a couple Sundays from now, we're holding an advanced commitment event. Don't be confused by that. It's just an evening service with an opportunity to make a commitment. Okay, so that's one of two opportunities that you're going to have to commit to Rev It Up. That evening on October 8th, even if you're not making a commitment, you should come. It's just an evening service. Derek's going to preach. We're going to do some singing. We'll pray together. Maybe a few other fun surprises. You don't want to miss out on that night. So this is going to be a great opportunity. Some of you are going to be ready to make a commitment. But if you're not, that's fine. You should still come and participate with us. Come pray with us. We need your prayers at this moment in the life of our church. And so this is an exciting time for us. What I want to do for the next few minutes as we get into 1 Timothy is I want to show you a couple statistics that are related to wealth and poverty. So you can put it up on the screen there for me, John. This is a graphic that's pretty, some of you have probably seen this, but in the world today there are around 7 billion people. It's a rough estimate. There may be more. Currently, maybe some people are right now having babies, so that's reality, right? Well, this is some amazing statistics. 50%, so roughly 3 billion people of the world are living on $2.50 less a day. So just to put that in context and perspective, if you go to Starbucks and you buy a tall mocha frappuccino, okay, so some of you love tall mocha frappuccinos, right? It's $3.95. You go to Chipotle for lunch today, which I love Chipotle. It's like the nectar of my family. I don't know what it is, whatever. It's $6.95 for a burrito. 50% of the world, 3 billion people, are living on less than $2.50 a day. That's extraordinary. You can see 80% of the world's population is living on less than $10 a day. These are incredible numbers of just globally what's going on with statistics for poverty and what's happening. And then you can see the last one, the 1.3 billion people are living in absolute poverty. So the World Bank has set absolute poverty at $1.90 a day. So those that are living at $1.90 or less a day are living in absolute poverty. 70% of those living in absolute poverty are women. This is incredible statistics, right? It's like, whoa, what story is that telling about what's going on in the world around us? By world standards, you and I are obviously in that top 20%. Some of us here are in the top 5%. Some here may be in the top 3%. Now, I'm not showing you the statistics or telling you this because I don't want you to go enjoy your Starbucks or not go out to eat today. I'm actually showing this to you because I want you to get a perspective of where you and I fall globally, that you and I, in this present age, are part of the rich in the world. This is where we are. So it's not making you to feel guilty. It's more matter just for perspective. And so there's an essential question we have to answer, and it is this. What are we supposed to do with the wealth God has given to us? I mean, that's a really important question for us to wrestle with and to think about. Okay, if that's true, if I am the rich in this present age, in this context right now, where I live, what am I supposed to do with the wealth God has given me? Because here's what we know. We know this, that the Bible does not condemn the wealthy for being wealthy. You won't find it in the Bible. You won't find a verse that says, if you have money, it is a sin. We also know that the Bible does not condemn a person for the ability to make money. I mean, some of the students that are here in Miami and worship here with us on a regular basis are going to graduate and they're going to make a lot of money in a new job. There is no condemnation in that. The ability to make money, from my perspective, is a God-given ability. God gives you and I the ability to make money. That is not a sin. The rich man that we looked at last week in the book of Luke was not condemned for his wealth. Jesus wanted his heart. And he wanted his heart, but he knew that there was things that were holding him back, and there was his possessions and his performance, because those had a greater value to him. He's not condemned for being a wealthy man. Jesus wanted his heart, so he goes after that which was the pathway to his heart. So although the Bible nowhere condemns wealth, the Bible is very clear on what we're supposed to do with our money. One of those passages is here in 1 Timothy chapter 6. I'm going to read it for us. Keep your Bible open to it because this is a great passage. We could have gone to a couple different ones, but this is a great passage for us to understand what are we supposed to do with the money, the wealth that God has given to us. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Starting verse 17. As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous, and to be ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Now, Paul, in these two verses here, he's writing to Timothy, and Timothy, as we know, is a young pastor in the city of Ephesus. Ephesus was an important city. It was also a port city. So it's right on the edge of where there's commerce and culture and trading and all these things happening all at once. And so Ephesus was a very important city at that time. Christianity, from the very beginning, has always been this kind of urban movement to influential city centers. And Ephesus was one of those city centers. Because Paul knew that if he could get a hold of those people in Ephesus with the gospel, that the tentacles of influence would go everywhere. You see, as that hub kind of city, if the Ephesians could get the gospel, and the gospel could get the Ephesians, it would be explosive. The gospel would just boom out from them everywhere they go. Now, you and I are not living in a port city. We are not surrounded by palm trees. We're surrounded by corn stalks, aren't we? But we are in a port city, township, whatever we were to call it. When I was first getting to know Oxford a couple years ago, and I was talking with Pastor Whalen, he told me this, and it stood out to me. I remember to this day. He said, Garrett, I think that Paul, the Apostle Paul, would spend time in Oxford. Oh, Derek, you got to tell me about that. What does that mean? And what he meant was that this town called Oxford, a little town of Oxford, can have a big influence because of its affluence. that this city here, called Oxford, if the gospel can get a hold of this community, if the gospel can get a hold of this college, the tentacles of influence could go everywhere. University towns are on the crossroads of culture and all these things that are happening with development of a value system. And so it is my perspective that we are literally on the crossroads. And if God can get a hold of this campus, He can get a hold of this community, the tentacles of influence could go around all over us. So with the commands that Paul gives to Timothy here, yes, they're to the rich people of Ephesus who were prospering in their city. They were doing well financially. The command that he gives to the rich here is extraordinarily relevant for us today because of where we are, because of the type of city that we are. As I read the passage, maybe you picked up there's a positive side of wealth and there's also a negative side of wealth. And it answers the key question, what are we supposed to do with the wealth God has given to us? So what I want to do is just kind of unpack first the negative impact that wealth can have in our lives, and then look at the positive impact of it. So first, look at verse 17. Here's the positive impact, and I'll summarize it this way. That wealth that is stashed away can increase the illusion of security. So look at verse 17 with me. Accumulating wealth, simply for the fact of accumulating wealth, will do more to increase your bottom line. It will also make one delusional. And it is this. There's two things that Paul kind of highlights here, two kind of illusions that come with wealth. And the first one is this, that stashing away wealth can give one the illusion of self-worth. The English word there that we read called haughty is really the Greek word for arrogant, and it's a combination of two words. One is to think, and the other one is exalted thoughts. So the combination of them essentially says, we take them together, say, to think great thoughts about yourself because you are rich. So he's charging them, you're rich in the present context. Ephesian Christians, you are rich. Don't think great thoughts about yourself because you have money. Now the broken bent that all of us have, that Paul addresses, the broken bent is this, that when you and I have money, it's very easy for us to think that we're better than those who don't have money. That is, it's core to how we sometimes view the world around us. You know, we see someone on the street who doesn't have as much as we do and think somehow in my mind I am better than them. Wealth can create an illusion. It's the great illusion of materialism that makes us think that our self-worth is somehow attached to our net worth. That if I have so much money in my bank, then I am all of a sudden better than that person who doesn't have anything in the bank. Wealth can create an illusion of moral superiority. I have, therefore I am better. It also creates the illusion of character and originality. Some of you know Bruno Mars, right? Bruno Mars loves to sing about money. He captures the arrogance of wealth perfectly. You're going to know this. He says this, I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Now, I'm not going to dance like Bruno Mars. I shouldn't dance like Bruno Mars. But for some, for truth, he's speaking truth because there's danger when you've got money in our pocket. Now, he's not talking about the danger of arrogance. That's not what he's talking about. But he speaks more truth than he actually is knowing about. Because money in our pocket is very dangerous for us. It can make us get an inflated view of ourselves. Now, Christians, we know, are not supposed to have that arrogant attitude about wealth. Clearly, that we're supposed to not have that type of attitude about what God has given to us. But unfortunately, the shadows of arrogance can be found in the church. Now, I want to apply this very particularly to where we are as a congregation, where Oxford Bible Fellowship is, because of this. Because not handled properly, capital campaigns can become an opportunity for some to throw around their financial weight. A recent story I heard is that about a pastor who was reluctant to launch into a capital campaign. So lest you think that every single pastor is really interested in building campaigns, they're not. Okay? So he's reluctant. And one of the key stakeholders in his church comes out to him, who's in favor of the expansion, and privately says to him, you know the golden rule, right? The pastor replies something to the effect of course, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The churchgoer says, that's not the golden rule. The ones with the gold make the rules. I hold the purse with the money, so I'll tell you where to hang the strings of the purse. It's an opportunity for that person, that stakeholder, to say, I'm going to flaunt my influence by telling you I'm going to give, and when I give, it better be done this way. You see, not handled properly, capital campaigns can turn into an opportunity for someone to flaunt their influence. So the arrogance that Paul is addressing here sometimes makes people withhold, but sometimes arrogance may actually lead someone to give. Think about that. But the giving is with strings attached. You do it my way, or it's the highway. I'm out of here. What a wise, reluctant pastor that guy was, right? What wisdom for him to realize, my church is not ready for this. There's some things that need to be worked on. That's a strong indicator of one who measures their worth by their net worth. It's so easy for us in church life to feel like if someone makes a lot of money, that their opinion is more valuable than the one who doesn't make enough money. That is a wrong thinking. That's an arrogant thinking. That's a haughtiness for us to think, wow, the person who can give a lot, their opinion values more than the one who can't give a lot. We need to flip that around and say, it doesn't really matter. Everyone's opinion matters. Everyone is valued. James chapter 2, he warns us against favoring the rich. So here it is. Stashing away wealth can be an illusion of self-worth. It's illusionary. Also, stashing away wealth can give the illusion of security. So you look at verse 17. He says, don't be haughty. Don't do that. Now he says another negative command, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches. And so hope is this very interesting word. We use this word a lot, but it has to do with confidence. It has to do with expectation, of expecting a certain result out of something. So I hope that my children will grow up to follow the Lord. I have that expectation that I hope that will one day happen for them. I also hope this capital campaign will go well. I have a certain expectation. So when we read the word hope, we should read it as almost expectation. And so what Paul warns here is saying, don't put your expectations on something that is uncertain. Don't expect something that is uncertain to produce a certain result when it never will. Money itself can be a lot like cotton candy. It's sweet. It looks all puffy. And then you bite into it and it's just gone, right? It's the worst. Thinking you can get full from, eating a big thing of cotton candy is just worthless, right? It's never going to produce the result. Placing our hope in money is like that. It just disappears. It's just not enough. There's a huge temptation that we have to misplace our hope in money. To feel more secure if we've got money in the bank. We all face that temptation. Whether it is saving for retirement, whether it's saving for college, whether it's just saving to make it through the pay period before you get paid again. All of us feel more at ease if we've got money in the bank. I do. I feel more secure the day I get paid. I'm like, okay, good, we're going to be okay. We're going to make it. And then my bank account gets low. I think, oh no, what's going to happen? But having money in the bank, or stocks, or bonds, is an illusion. It's an illusion of security. Why do we forget this? You know this. I'm not telling you that you don't know. What happened on September 29th, 2008? Anyone know? Stock market crashed. Right? And it just bottomed out. I felt the effects of that. You probably did too. If you owned a home, the value of your home just tanked, right? Maybe you had investments in stocks and bonds, and all of a sudden it was just like it just disappeared. Where did it go? The value just up and gone. There it goes. All September 29th, 2008 did is prove something that Paul already knew. The uncertainty of riches. But why do we forget it? Thinking, that's not true. I'm going to place my hope in something. So Paul's very clear that the only certain thing about wealth is its uncertainty. You can't take it with you when you die. And some people stress about what's going to happen to it after they die, as if it matters. Now, there's nothing wrong for saving for the future. There's nothing wrong for saving for college or for retirement. Nothing wrong in taking care of the next generation. That is not what I'm referring to. I'm referring about where we put our security, where we build up a sense of, I'm safe because of this. The text is very clear here that the only way we are safe is putting our hope in God, not in something that's uncertain. So what do we do with what we have? He's telling you, as for the rich in the present age, he doesn't say, get rid of your riches. He says, this is how you need to view them. So in many ways, it's an attitude adjustment, right? It's saying, my perspective on what I have needs to change. And so let's invert Paul's negative commands into positive. So negatively, he says, don't be haughty. We could say, be humble. If God has given you resources, you don't have to be ashamed of that. But you do need to be humble. Because what you have has been given to you. Be humble. You don't need to flaunt it and think great thoughts about yourself because all you have is from God. And the second is this: trust God. Trust God. So divesting ourselves of putting hope in something that is uncertain in order to invest hope in the person who never changes. And so these two negative commands, don't be haughty, don't do that, be humble, don't set your hope on this, trust God. Money itself doesn't necessarily have to have a negative impact in our life. It can be positive. It can produce some amazing things in our life. And so that's the negative side of wealth that he's addressing. Don't do this. Now we're going to look at the positive side, and we'll say it this way, that wealth that is given away will increase confidence. This is really the second part of verse 17 down to 19. Let me read them for us again. He says this: don't set your hope on the uncertainty of riches. And then this big transition, he says, now put it on God, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They're to do good, be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may truly take hold of that which is life. So wealth can have a positive impact in our life. Wealth that is given away can increase our confidence in God. So let's just pretend for a second that hope is a thing that you can actually grasp onto. Okay? Now I can put my hope in one or two places. And if I put hope in the bucket of wealth, what happens is my confidence decreases because it's leaky. Wealth is not a good container for hope. And so just for illustration's sake, let's say, okay, we're not going to put it in wealth. Let's say we put it in the bucket of God. And I just, please bear with me. I don't mean God as a bucket. I just mean that we can put it in Him in that way, okay? So if I put my hope in Him, He's not leaky. He can hold my hope. He can hold my expectations. He can strengthen my expectations. Why? Because according to verse 17, he says there, because God is the one who provides everything you need. I don't even provide for myself. And so if I put my hope in God, my confidence grows. Because I put it in His character. I put it in who He is. And He is certain, never changing. And so if I'm here and I have wealth, what do I do with it? I need to express it in a way that says I can actually increase in confidence. What do I do with what I have is this: I grab onto Jesus for dear life. I say, He is my confidence, He is my hope, and then I can let go of what I have. But the only way to do this is to understand deeply the gospel message. Because understanding, I can grab onto Jesus and I hold on to Him. Then you know what? When I have that and I'm holding on to Him, then I'm not looking for wealth to give me worth. Because my worth is what Jesus has done for me on the cross. He gives me worth. He gives me value. Not this material thing that looks green, that's got someone's picture on it. He's the one who gives me value because He died for me. And then I don't have to envy someone else's wealth because I know that I have everything I need because of the cross. And so when I have that robust view of the gospel in my heart and it's working its way into my life, I can grab a hold of Jesus and know that my worth is in Him and my security is in Him. then I can freely let go of the things I have in my life because those things aren't there for my worth. They're not there for my security. I can let go of those things. My hope in God increases. Many years ago, Naomi and I were struggling through some credit card debt. And it was a period of time for us. It was nothing severe, but it was a financial reality that we were facing in our life. And we had a decision to make at that moment. Do we continue to give while we're paying off our debt? That's a big question. And we decided at that moment that what we would do is that we would continue to pay down our debt and we would continue to tithe and give. And I'll tell you what happened for us in that moment. Our confidence in God grew. Because we realized, you know what? My confidence is not in these things that are worldly. It is actually in God. And so I grab hold of the immensity of the gospel, and therefore then practically what it looks like is I can pay down my debt and continue to tithe. I can continue to do that while I'm doing these other things. My faith in God grew. Friends, nothing in my life has increased my faith more than continually, consistently giving. So when I get paid, the first thing I do is I go online to the OBF website and I log in and I tithe. That's the first thing I do. And I do that to say, God, I am confident in you. You are my hope. You are my confidence, not my checking account. And God, I'm going to trust you that as I give this amount, then you're going to provide for what I need. And we do that wisely, right? And we do that in accordance with what God has given to us. But giving is a way to say, God, I trust you. I'm confident in who you are. I'm not putting my hope and confidence in this green piece of paper that somehow we give value to. So let me challenge you with this. Just think about it for your own life. How has generosity affected your faith? I mean, as a pastor, we hear all kinds of stories about people's giving and where they're at financially. Here's what I have never heard. I've never heard anyone tell me, Pastor, I gave to the church and my faith decreased. Never. I've never heard that story. It's always the opposite. Pastor, I gave and you wouldn't believe it. My faith is growing. My confidence is growing. And so let me just challenge you. How has generosity affected your faith in God? I guarantee you it will. It will increase that. Listen, this campaign that we're in is not about what the leadership wants from you. It's what we want for you. I want you to grow in living a transformed life. I want you to grow in experiencing the freedom of the gospel. I want you to grow in confidence in God. This campaign is just a spiritual tool to help these spiritual realities come about for us. So it's not about reaching the goal. We reach the goal, great. If we don't, okay. But do we grow spiritually? Did our confidence in God grow? Are we more free? Are our lives more transformed? I want you to notice one more detail in verse 17. This is extraordinary. Look at the end of verse 17. He says this. God who provides us with everything. And then these two words at the end of that verse. To enjoy. I want you to underline that in your Bible. Maybe you're not a Bible underliner. And if you're not, that's fine. You can underline it in the Bible, the person sitting next to you if you want to. Or you can take it out of the pocket in front of you. Because I want every single Bible in this room underlined, that word underlined. And hopefully, no, do it. You can do it. I'm serious. Go for it. And hopefully from the first service, it's already underlined a lot. But if it's not, underline it. Because this is why I want you to underline it. So many times, we tend to think that the opposite of materialism is asceticism. We tend to think, okay, I'm going to combat materialism in my life by suppressing joy. I had to restrict joy. I say, I'm not going to enjoy the things that God has given. That's not what the verse is saying. But have you ever met someone like that? Who says, you have this self-inflicted pain. They're like living to die. They're planning their funeral. They're just like, it's like, that's not this verse. The verse is saying God has given you everything, and he says to enjoy it. So the opposite of materialism isn't asceticism. It's actually generosity. You see how Paul connects this? He says God's given you everything to enjoy. And where does he go next? He says, there to do good, which we'll explain in just a minute. He says, be generous. So one of the primary ways to enjoy what God has given you is to be generous. Friends, I have been the recipient of someone's hilarious generosity. I stand before you as a person, Maneo and I reflect this week of how many times we have been given. And we looked at this person and said, why are you doing this? And they said, I don't know. This is just amazing. It's by faith. I just wanted to be a blessing to you. It's the hilarious nature of generosity. Every single one of those people had a grip of the gospel. They said, you know what? Because God has been so good to me. So I can be good. I release what I have to be a benefit to other people. That's the type of person I want to be. I want to be a person who lives hilariously generous with my life. Why? Because this verse, God provides us with everything to enjoy. I want your joy to increase. And a primary way to do that is to live generously. So it's this amazing opportunity, isn't it? Generosity and giving our stuff away is this opportunity to experience confidence, to grow in joy. And those are amazing things as we experience the glories of Christ and we just bask in His supremacy. We say, well, how good you are, God. How good we've been treated because of what you've done for us in Christ. It's an amazing opportunity. And then He ends here with the responsibility. Because there is also a responsibility of generosity. Look at the end of here, verse 19. So he says this, verse 18 and 19. He says, so they're to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous, ready to share the storing of treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they take hold of that which is truly life. So the command here, this positive command, there's three pieces to it, and they all continue to grow. So look at them. First he says they're to do good. So in the original language, in Greek, it's just one word. So we could read it, they are good. To do good. It has with it the practical action. So it's not just, hey, be generous. It's actually practical. Say, do it. Like there's a practical action to it. So it says that. It says, do good. And then he grows in that. It says, to be rich in good works. And so this practical action of doing good, we're supposed to do it a lot. So if the word rich there is in the context of saying, do it abundantly, do it a lot. Don't just do it infrequently, frequently, consistently. Do the practical action. And then he nails down specifically. He says that action, that practical action that we're supposed to do consistently, he says there, is to be generous. Ready to share. So generosity is a practical act that we're supposed to do frequently. This is the command. I'm not telling you what it is. This is just what the Bible tells us, that what we do with what we have is it's practical action of generosity over and over and over again. Why? Because it brings us joy. It should bring us joy. My open hand of what I have in my life comes when God has touched my heart. When I say, okay, God, I'm going to give because you touched me, and so I can freely do this. It's a joy to enjoy this command. We have a responsibility to obey this command. But the responsibility is also developed further in verse 19. Because the responsibility to do generous and to do these things regularly is actually a storing up. You can see they're storing up a good foundation for the future and to take hold of that which is truly life. And so here's the responsibility. The giver is storing up treasure for the future, building a foundation for the future. All of us have options for giving that are kind of all over the place, especially right now. I mean, our world is like full of opportunities for giving. The hurricanes that are happening in our world right now, the world just seems like it's in disarray, doesn't it? And there's opportunities for giving that are all around us. And some of you are faced on a regular basis with what am I going to do with God has given me? He's given me resources. And let me encourage you with this, let me challenge you with this, to move beyond worldly-minded generosity. Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the world. His net worth is somewhere around $87 billion. That's a lot of money, right? But Bill Gates is also one of the most generous men in the entire world. He's given nearly $30 billion to alleviate what he calls the big problems of our world. In a recent interview in a Telegraph magazine, he was asked this question: where does all this giving come from? Is it from some newfound faith? And this is his response. He says this: it doesn't relate to any particular religion. It's about human dignity and equality. Extraordinary generosity. And I don't know Bill Gates, maybe you do. But I don't know where he's at spiritually. Maybe he's a Christian, maybe he's not. I don't know. But all I see is what that response is saying. It's a worldly-minded generosity that's going simply to alleviate the problems and the suffering of this world. I mean, he's giving to alleviate poverty, which is amazing. I mean, it's to be like followed, an example to follow. But according to that simple comment, there's nothing beyond just alleviating the sufferings of this world. And so what I'm challenging us to think about is this: move beyond just worldly-minded generosity to say, okay, how can I give to alleviate the sufferings of this world and the sufferings of the next world? Because we can alleviate poverty. We can get rid of AIDS. We can dig wells. But if we're not getting at the souls of people and alleviating the suffering of the next world, then maybe our generosity is just wasted. You see, when Paul encourages Timothy to encourage his people, give in such a way that stores up treasure for the future. Give in such a way so they can take hold of life. It's not just life here. It's life beyond when they pass into the next world. And so as you think about, okay, God has given me resources, where am I going to invest those? Let me just challenge you to think through. Is the giving that I'm doing, are the opportunities in front of me, which are plentiful, is it going just to alleviate sufferings of this world, or is it actually going to alleviate sufferings of this world and the next world? Because you can do both, but one without the other is almost maybe just wasted generosity. Friends, we have an opportunity. We have a responsibility to alleviate sufferings not just of this world, but to alleviate sufferings of the next world. God has given you and me that opportunity. Let's pray and ask Him to help us grab hold of it. Father in heaven, we thank you for these few verses in the New Testament that you've given to us to understand what are we supposed to do with what we've been given. We thank you for the opportunities that wealth gives us. We ask that you would help us to fulfill the responsibility of investing your resources where you want them to go. And so help us to be full of wisdom, to know that what are we to do with what you've given to us. I ask that during this campaign that you would continue to help us grab hold of all that you want for us, that we grow in maturity, that we grow in understanding your grace, that we grow as people who are gospel-centered, who love you, and understand how much we've been loved. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Let's stand back together and continue to worship.